I got a new computer and just some audio issues. Plugged everything in. Everything has been working when I did a couple presentations at some other places, but for some reason we're having a few audio issues right now. It might have been the fact that I had too many windows opened, but we will check. Go ahead and let me know that everything's a-okay by when you go into the chat. Tell me that everything looks good, sounds good. Thank you. What you're going to do is go over there and listen to the broadcast, Mason Edward, and let me know that everything is okay. You could chat. Says Kyler, my son, says all good. Brandon says all good. Two boys, my boys, our boys. Everything sounds great. See what happens when you reboot, start over again? I don't know. So here we go. All good, everybody says. All right. So then we'll go ahead and get on with this. Much better, people said. I'd rather be much better than what we were dealing with before. So let's go ahead and get this party going. So I don't even know what I did with my, it's housing debrief. We are Thursday. It's getting into the middle of October. We're making our way towards the end of October. Anyways, once again, I will invite everybody to smash the like button, subscribe to Reports on Housing on YouTube. Please do that. As many people as possible, get on there, do that so that it helps with the YouTube algorithms, gets the proper word out there. Everybody's able to see and hear exactly what's going on in the marketplace as it unfolds, because this is a progressive model that I embrace, and that's pretty much what economics is all about. What we saw at the beginning of the year and what we saw as we were going through this last summer, and some of the things that I was saying back then about where I thought rates would go and all that stuff, things have changed. We're oftentimes wrong, but there's a lot of pivoting that's going on with the Fed, and it's constantly changing and making everything continuously evolve. So let's get into the Fed inflated housing bubble. And right now, everybody is dealing with inflation. Of course, we have gas and food prices that have gone through the roof, especially gas here in California. But it's not just that alone. There's rent inflation. There's inflation across all kinds of goods. Yes, some goods have come down a little bit, but we'll talk about that. Inflation, CPI, we talked about how it came out last week, and it was a bit on the high side. As a matter of fact, if you see where it's at right now, it exceeds where it was a couple months ago, and we're at an all-time high, or all-time recent high. And the last time it was this high was back in 1982. There's a lot of things that compare to the 80s, but yeah, you see the velocity of where we were. We had very little inflation, and it was within the bounds of where the Fed likes to be for a really long time. And then all of a sudden, we're not used to inflation. Now, where we are today and where we were in the 80s and the 70s is everybody was used to inflation back then. And companies and people pivoted because they understood that the commodities and prices were going to continue to go up. So they had to continuously evolve based upon that inflation. We are not used to this inflation, and it came on rather suddenly, rather abruptly, and it's something that we now have to account for. Now, if you look at it, this is where inflation is just since we went into the pandemic. This is January of 2020 on the very left-hand side, bringing us to all the way to where we are today. And as I said, where we are today, if you draw a line across, it of course exceeds where we were earlier in this year as far as core is concerned. Core inflation. And when you draw a line across, like I said, it goes all the way back to 1982. Now, this is where the Fed likes to be. They like that core to be right at 2%. And they do everything in their power to keep and maintain the inflation right at about 2%. 2% is healthy. You think that 0% is healthy, but that's not good for free economy. We want property prices and everything to go up slightly over time, and it makes for a really good democratic consuming economy. So this right here, what I'm pointing to, is December of 2021. This is when the Fed originally got together. And prior to that, they were already unwinding their mortgage-backed security purchases because they saw that inflation, the headline inflation was going up. Core inflation was going up a little bit, but they understood that they needed to unwind all their mortgage-backed security that they were doing. they were buying them at a rapid rate ever since we went into the pandemic. And then they announced that they were going to stop that by March of 2022 of this year. For some reason, and I've actually read into it, I really, hindsight, and them too, I'm sure they wish they would have stopped when they first saw this as a problem. And what they compare themselves to, and what Jerome Powell compares himself to, is Paul Volcker. Now, Paul Volcker, I'm 6'4". Paul Volcker is 6'7". This guy was a giant, and that's him getting. He was nominated and appointed in office by Jimmy Carter back in 1979. And I was trying to look at a picture of him and Ronald Reagan next to each other, but Ronald Reagan likes to sit next to him because he's such a tall dude. And anyhow, just big, tall guy. Paul Volcker already was dealing with an inflationary environment and was really there to take command of the Federal Reserve. He wrote a book called Keeping at It. Now, I'm showing you this book because this is on Jerome Powell's desk. So he really wants to, it sounds like he's invoking the spirit of Paul Volcker and almost wants to be kind of like Paul Volcker-ish, the way that they're going forward. As a matter of fact, where they were a year ago, you wouldn't even think they had it in them to be anything even close to Paul Volcker. So this is what the Fed fund rates have been over time. This goes all the way back to 1970. And this is where we are on the right-hand side. You can see where it says 0.75 point increase. Most recently, we're at 3.25%. So it's anywhere from 3 to 3.25. There's like this range, right? This is the federal funds target rate. This is short-term rate. This has everything to do with automobile loans, credit card debt, and also equity line of credit. This is a high amount, but we've been higher than this. And people always say, we've been higher than this. And we've been higher than this with mortgage rates and all that stuff. However, what you have to understand is where we're coming from. We were coming from nearly zero. About 0.25% is where we were averaging. About 0.25% went from 1/4 to 3/4. Now, this is where Paul Volcker came in and really ratcheted up the short-term rate. He went from 10 to 20 two times. Went from 10 to 18 and then from 10 to 20. He did that in 1981. And first it was when he first took office, he started to raise the short-term rate. And that was August of 1979. But you could see he actually doubled the short-term rate. So he took it from 10 to 20. So that was a doubling. That was a big shift, and it was hard to digest. There was a lot of issues with that, and people had to change the way that they did real estate, and it did slow things down, but not quite like what we're experiencing right now, because what we've done today is we've gone from 0.25 to 3.25, and we've had like a 13 times increase from where we were before. So that is abruptly changing the system, more so than when you start off at a higher range and increase from there. So this is this. I hate to do this to everybody, but I want everybody to understand where the Federal Reserve, where they came from back in December of 2021. This is called the dot plot. And what they do is they project where they would like the short-term rates to go. And they project where it is right now. And that was, you can see on the left-hand side, 2021. But this is 2022. They were projecting that the short-term rate in 2022 would go to 0.25 to 1.25. So that's the range that they're saying that the short-term rate would be in 2022. We're at 3.25 right now. So you could see how, while they were saying that they were going to be doing this, they didn't know to the extent that they were going to do it. And this is what everybody was digesting at the beginning of this year. They said they'd stop buying mortgage-backed securities, stop buying treasuries. They were going to going to drain the balance sheet, and they were going to start to raise the short-term rate. And this is what they were talking about. This was back in December of 2021. Then this is where we're going to be in 2023. And you could see their range is 1 to 2.25% for 2023. We're knocking on the door of 2023, and we're well over that already. So they applied the brake because they saw what was happening with CPI stuff, and they came out, and in March of 2022, so just a few months later, now they've got new dot plot, and this is what it looks like. It's now 1.25 to 3.25, and That was for this year, and next year is now at 2 to 3.75. So now you can see they're changing their expectations. The market's absorbing it. Long-term investors are looking at this, and now it's changing the way that investors are forecasting where mortgage rates and short-term rates are going to be. So as a result, we had mortgage rates continue to ride up from the start of the year all the way to when they announced this in March, and they continue to go up. Then they applied the brakes further because they're looking at the inflation data. And every single month, it's getting worse and worse. And this now is 2022. This is for June of 2022. And remember, we got that inflation reading in June that was extra hot. It was way hotter than market expectations. As a result, their new dot plot for this year is 3 to 4%. That was what they did in June of 2022. And for next year, we're now looking at 2 3/4 to 4.5%. So you can see they're continuously massaging it upward. And as a result, we're getting the short-term rate was going up. S&P was falling, and the 30-year mortgage rates were going up after all of these announcements and how they were talking, and also trying to digest the CPI, the inflation indexes, because they were continuing to go up. Then they met in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. This is in the month of August. This is important because in the month of August, we actually had interest rates that had gone up to 6% and had floated down to 5%. And then we also had the S&P and Wall Street financial indexes. They were all going up. This is not what the Federal Reserve wanted to see. So as a result, they came out swinging. And I've talked about it before. He at the Jackson Hole, Wyoming speech, 8 minutes long, he talked about a lot of pain for consumers and for companies, and really wanted to make a stand. And then all the Federal Reserve presidents from around the country started getting on to CNBC and Yahoo Finance and all over the place, trying to get the message out that they're going to inflict pain and they're not going to change their tune. So they now are slamming on the brakes as of the end of August, start of September. And then they came out with this September up another 3/4 points. Now they're doing 3/4 point, 3/4 point, 3/4 point, and they're going up at a very aggressive rate. And you could see right here, well, I hit the audio, so I hope that didn't disrupt anything. But as you could see over here, now they came out, this is just last month, with a new set of dots. And these new set of dots are now 3 1/4 to 4 3/4 for this year. And then next year from 3 3/4 to 5%. So that leads us to believe that we're going to get a 3/4 bump in November, and what they're calling most likely a 0.5 point bump in December, and then further in like at the beginning of the year 2023, another 1/4 point bump. And this is what's being expected. That's what the expectations right now. But every time they talk, they keep on going deeper and deeper and pushing harder on that brake pedal. So as a result, the Federal Reserve has come out. They looked a little soft when they were talking. I actually listened to the entire speech all over again from December of 2021. And then now you hear the way that they talk now in September, also coming out of the Jackson Hole, Wyoming speech, and they're coming out, they're swinging. It's a totally different Fed. He's invoking the spirits of Paul Volcker. And but what it seemingly, you hear a lot of economists talking about that they're just going too fast. And that partly, you wonder if part of it is because they had egg on their face because they were talking about transitory for such a long time. I was on team transitory there for a while, but then by the time it got to the middle of summer of 2021, kind of knew that this is no longer transitory. How long can you call it transitory? So at that point, that's where a lot of people were wondering, why aren't they slowing things down? And now that they're doing everything in their power, it's like they want to go ahead and overshoot it and then backpedal afterwards. But what they're doing is they've changed these rates so many times that it takes between 6 and 9 months for them really to work through the system so that you actually see what's going on. So as a result, we haven't even really seen the very first rate changes that will come at the end of this year. And we haven't even absorbed those big 3/4 point rate changes. which will come later into 2023. So you can understand the concern of going too fast. And that 13-fold change is really going to disrupt the economy because we are used to a low rate environment. And yes, you can argue all day long that they've been propping up the market. However, you just can't go at that rate and speed without causing some damage. And that is what a lot of people are speculating is to come, is a deeper recession because of that. So that fuse is really long, and it takes a while before it actually ignites within the economy. And you could see already, though, one of their big engines is real estate, and they've affected real estate because now, because of the short-term rate is so high that and where they think that they're going to go, the markets have already priced in where they want 10-year treasuries to be, as well as where they want mortgage-backed securities to be priced. So as a result, and there's so much volatility that they want it even priced higher because they're worried that people will refinance their mortgages. So there's actually extra pad in there. So now we've gone from 3.25% at the start of this year to, that's not even right, it says 7.04%. That's where we were as of at the very start of the week. This is where we are right now. 7.37%. And I had to dial back to see where we've even had a rate like this that has been either MBA or Freddie Mac Mortgage Market Survey that has any rate that's even close to 7.37%. The last time we had a rate that high, and this is as of today, was in the year 2000. So this is such a giant change in mortgage rates. We've only seen this a few other times. That was in 1980. And I didn't think we could match that 1981 line, but I now know that we've now beaten that 1981 line because this is like a week old and we're higher than where we were before. And this is according to Freddie Mac Mortgage Market Survey. It's only gone up slightly in this last week. But if we maintain where we are right now with mortgage rates, you're going to see that this will surpass that 1981 yellow line, which is right there. So this is every single year, going back 51 years, the change in interest rates. And you could see that where we are in 2022, it's the biggest change that we've ever had at this time of the year. So, but really quick, I want to bring in our sponsor. I want to thank once again, Jason Thibodeau at JMJ Financial. You can reach him at 714-330-8263. That's 714-330-8263. And they've got a lot of programs, especially for this kind of a market where you're doing your due diligence and you want to do your inspection, all that stuff, but you want your earnest money deposit to make sure that it's safe. There's a way of doing that. They have an EMD program where you put a little bit of money down and then you get it back after the loan's funded. It's just to ensure that you get your earnest money deposit back. And they have lock and shop mortgages because, as you know, rates are so volatile. I actually think we could continue to see rates get up there towards 7.5%, and we're already getting there. And could just depending upon where these CPI numbers come out and how the data continues to unfold, we could see this thing get all the way up towards the 8. I can't rule it out at this point. And they also have 2-1 buy downs mortgages that you can see what it does to your rate when you put money up front or you negotiate this with the seller or just getting points, anything. They can definitely help you. They have a simple model. Their methodology is simple. It's we don't make promises we can't keep. Absolutely love that. That's how I do business as well. And Jason Thibodeau at JMJ Financial, you can reach him at 714-330-8263. That's 714-330-8263. Super cool guy. I absolutely love what he does. He is very knowledgeable when it comes to mortgages and has just a tremendous amount of experience. So the Fed has been busy. And thank you for your sponsorship, Jason. We appreciate it. The Fed has been busy inflating this bubble in housing. And you're saying, how is it a bubble in housing? And I'll show you how it's a bubble in housing. It all has to boil down to home affordability. Now, home affordability, you take into consideration a few different things. It's incomes, and then it's prices, and then it's rates. Well, when rates were low, and they've been low for a super long time, you can argue that that we've been here before with rates, but not with home values where they are today and matching incomes, because this is what happens over time. You can see that there's not that big of a change in payments. And I just updated this. This is the median detached price of a home plugged into the average interest rate for that month. And I went all the way back to January of 2018 on the very left-hand side, where you see we had a 4% mortgage and $2,213 per month. Now you could see over time it didn't really change much. Interest rates went down, values went up, but you could see that the payment was actually pretty much staying the same. We're right at that 2,500 to down to 2,300, and even got down to 2,208 when we started to go into COVID and we started to get these really, really low mortgage rates, where we had all-time historically low mortgage rates. So we had those low rates, and even though values were going up, it remained relatively flat. And that's what it does. It has to slowly progress, but if it sharply increases, that's where there's a shock to the system. And that's what we're experiencing right here, because you can see right here that in January of 2022, we started off with a $2,970 per month. So we went from about $2,500 to close to $3,000 per month for the average, for the median SoCal home. And in June of this year, as rates continue to climb, they went from 2970 to 3520 to 4252 in June. Because remember, we had that high CPI reading. They came out, they did a 3/4 point bump on the short-term rate. And then in August, we had interest rates that got all the way down to 5%. So now we're looking at 3,939. So that came down a little bit. We got a little bit of an increase in demand, but then it's been going up ever since. And you could see, and on the right-hand side, we're at just about $4,800. So what was, right around $2,500 per month and even less is now all the way up to $4,800 per month. Such a big, giant change in such a rapid period of time. And you could see it all has to do with those interest rates. So as a result, we have very, very, very low demand. And demand has been dropping like crazy. And it's ever since the Fed came out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and changed their tune completely and invoked the spirits of Paul Volcker. On October 13th, last week, we were at 10,125. And that was down 9% in a 2-week period of time, and down almost 1,000 pending. So that was a snapshot of last 30 days worth of escrows. Normally it goes down, just not at this rate. It slowly goes down, and so does inventory. But right now, demand is falling like crazy, and I'll show you what was happening with inventory. Last year, we were at 18,183, which is 80% higher than where we are today. And the 3-year average prior to COVID, 2017, 18, and 19, is 50% higher than where we are today. And today, actually, because I was comparing it to October 13th last week, we're at 9,753. It shouldn't say up 48%, but that's down also from 10,125. So if you get a copy of this, you will actually get the this latest. I'll update that with the correct number, because that's down another, I believe it's down 7%. I'm roughly doing that in my head. It's the lowest demand reading since April of 2020. And understand that when the Fed came out swinging, talking about pain, ever since then, from 10,001, from where it was back on, it was the 3rd week of August, that's when they came out. From that point to 9,753, demand has dropped 23%. It is going down twice as fast as it normally does. And that has everything to do with mortgage rates were just continuously rising since they came out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Now, on the supply side of things, you can see it actually was going up, and then we hit a peak. Normally, this thing would have continued to go up all the way until we hit that purple line. But there's this new phenomenon that's going on of people not placing their homes on the market, so the inventory can't really build. But you could see that it stopped dropping, and the reason it stopped dropping is because there's fewer homes that are coming on, but even they're languishing on the market, and they're not selling. And there are fewer that are participating, but it's the same number that's been it's been going up slightly over like the last several weeks. On October 13th, last week, 30,612. It's actually up 1%, or up 179 homes. Not a very big rise. You have to understand, earlier in the year when things were really going up, especially in April and May, it was going up like 2,000 every 2,000 to 3,000 for every 2 weeks. And last year we were at 19,345, so 37% fewer homes. That was an all-time low record. 3-year average is prior to COVID, 2017, 18, 19, is 34% higher than where we are today. We should be right around 40,000 homes, but we're still missing a lot of homes. The only market that's not missing any homes from 2019 is San Bernardino County. And today we're at 30,910, so up 1% again, up just about 300 homes. So once again, it's going up slightly. It's not coming down like it normally does during the fall, and that's because demand's coming down at a pretty fast clip. And you could see that here. This is interesting. This is Len Kiefer, and he does a fantastic job. If you see this on the right-hand side, on the upper chart, it's actually what's happened to interest rates from January of this year all the way to where we are today, and you can see how quickly it's changed. And as a result, with the chart that's on the bottom half, that is the difference between today's interest rate and the average interest rate across all of the United States. Keep in mind, 40% of the country owns their home free and clear. The other 60%, you're looking at, there is such a disparity between their mortgage and where the mortgages are today. If you look, goes back, you have to go back to it's way back prior to 1990 to see any kind of a comparison to this. So it's not anything that we've seen over the last 30 years. So this is such a giant change that what it's doing right here is it's keeping this couple in their home. I talked to you about it before, hunkering down. It's been going on since COVID, but it just grew this trend, and it's really grew in July, August, and September, and I know it's going to continue in October because you're just seeing it. Because otherwise, if we had the same number of homes that typically come on, they would all languish on the market, and the inventory would actually rise at a greater clip. So what is the speed of the market? The speed of the market, it has been slowing, and once again, it's ever since the Fed talked about the pain that they're going to cause in August. So October 13th. Last week, it was at 91 days. It actually went up 9 days in a 2-week period of time. So we were at 82 days 2 weeks prior, so 3 weeks ago, and now we're at 91 days as of last Thursday. And last year at this time, we were at 32 days. An insane market, absolutely insane, one that I had never seen before. The 3-year average is 83 days, so we're above that 3-year average now. And today, taking into consideration today's demand reading and inventory, we're at 95 days. Now, technically, when I say 95 days, it's above 90, and that's what I refer to as balanced. It's a balanced market. It's actually the highest level since April of 2020, and that April of 2020, we were getting readings that we hadn't seen since the Great Recession. Now, the big difference, you can't compare now to the Great Recession. Don't get too excited if you're a buyer. It's not going to happen. Those are totally different. Watch all of my other YouTube videos where I've talked about this to death. But right now, it's lining up more towards a balanced market where it doesn't favor buyers or sellers. But this model that we rely on with supply and demand is actually broken. And the reason that it's broken, that you can't look at it and say, yeah, we have very little supply and very little demand pitted against each other, is because of affordability. Affordability has really cranked a lot of pressure on the housing market, where you're actually seeing it's like a slight buyer's market. It's not a buyer's market where prices are plunging because values are still too sticky. We don't have a lot of people that have to sell, but a lot of people that want to sell that have to give up a little bit on price in order to make that thing happen. So as a result, there's still this tug of war that's happening between the buyers that want to be too aggressive, want to price in the price reductions that are going to happen in the future, and sellers that want to hold all their equity. So that's what this that tug of war is going to be. But as a result, because there's such limited number of demand, we're watching property prices slowly come down. If you want a copy of this, you have to be a subscriber. You can go to reportsonhousing.com. That's reportsonhousing.com, and click on subscribe. You can also go there for free content and watch all my old videos. They're all there too. And we have reports that's all over Southern California, and we're working on that Bay Area. We're almost there, almost that finish line. $15 per month or $150 per year. That's how much it is to subscribe. You get the first month free, and you will get the most recent report. If you're in Orange County, Los Angeles, San Diego County, you get Pricing is Crucial. This came out on Monday and Tuesday of this week. And then San Bernardino Riverside will get this report this coming up Monday. Pricing is Crucial. I talk about how important it is on pricing, and I explain why, and I show a lot of different things and explain it. If you want a free month, you can utilize the coupon code FED when you go to reports on housing, the 3 letters FED. So I'm fed up with all these short-term rate hikes. So that's it. That's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry for the technical issues we had to redo it. So that's okay. Now we have a good, clean copy that you can refer your clients to, and they can understand what's really going on in the housing market right now. And we'll continue to bring you the latest and greatest as we see everything unfold. I hope you have a great finish to your week, and we will see you on the other side.